Up next, we have Marietje Schaake, a rising star of the European Parliament. She just got off the plane from Kenya, actually last night, into Chicago. She's been heading up the European Union's support for a fair and free election for the last few weeks. Let's please welcome Marietje.
Politicians are disconnected from reality, and people trust car salesmen more than their representatives. I hear this is sounding familiar, and indeed, trust in politicians is low. It's too low. And it is upon us to rebuild that trust. Yet, the promises of a return to a romanticized past are deceiving, and closing borders or erecting walls are not the answers to today's global challenges. Instead of turning inward, we must appreciate that the public interest is also at stake in the global arena. At the moment when technology connects us worldwide, it is a matter of leadership and civic duty to shape the society of the future, based on the democratic values that have brought people the highest quality of life, in order to preserve that quality. The reality is that all politicians and each government see influence flowing elsewhere, from nation-state governments to the local level to networks and multilateral organizations, from public institutions to private companies, from democracies to authoritarian states. Now, some may say from the positive side, individuals have become so empowered that they no longer depend on government. Isn't that great? But on the downside, democratic principles are being eroded and even replaced with profit models and authoritarian governance. The digital revolution is leading to a redistribution of power that is not matched with the redistribution of accountability and oversight. So, is this the end of democratic governments, and will algorithms, artificial intelligence, and robots just take over? Will all politicians be fired? No. But we do need a radical rethink and reinvent democratic governance in a world where everyone and everything will soon be digitized and connected. While the role of governments is changing, global technology companies are now the ones confronted with challenges that traditionally landed exclusively on the desks of diplomats and politicians. Should media apply censorship under pressure? Who to call when the internet is shut down entirely in an attempt to control people? And which legal checks and balances are in place before content is taken offline? According to which law? Global technology companies are the new sovereigns, but they're designed and engineered to maximize profit, not democracy. And the de facto norms that they set can lead to conflict with the rule of law, also in democracies. A large social media platform recently removed pictures of a centuries-old statue in Italy, sexually explicit. The same happened to the iconic picture of the Napalm Girl. A video of a political speech I personally gave addressing the need to end torture was removed, taken offline, labeled as spam. Now, I know speeches in European Parliament are not always the most inspiring, but they could not legitimately be labeled as spam, and political speech must be free. Social media platforms have become political arenas and catalysts for junk news sprawling. They're also the only place where most young people see news. But probably the most far-reaching impact of digitization and subsequent power shifts is the loss of the state's monopoly on the use of force. States are less and less capable of maintaining exclusive control over critical infrastructure and of defensive and offensive technologies. Instead, they procure technologies, often with far-reaching capabilities, and then they're not able to stop worldwide proliferation of these tools afterwards. We must urgently avoid that the digitization of everything becomes the privatization of everything and the weaponization of everything. When every device, from a hairdryer to a self-driving car, can be used for malicious attacks, even without the user knowing it, who is responsible for enforcing safeguards? With the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, the relationship between the public interest and private companies takes on an entirely new dimension. So in short, technology companies have a growing impact on the state of democracy, and states operate with a growing dependence on technology companies. In this new reality, the interdependence of well-functioning digital infrastructure applies to both governments and companies. They need it, because no one can afford a breakdown of the global banking system, for example. Now, historically, when new technical possibilities arose and interdependence became stronger, the momentum for global norms opened up. With the introduction of cars came the need to develop new traffic and safety laws. And the law of the seas was developed to ensure that free passage and governance of ships through international waters was arranged. And to avoid mutually assured destruction or nuclear warfare, non-proliferation treaties were born. So now is the time to develop the governance of our global online space. Without norms governing the global digital networked ecosystem, the legal vacuums that companies continue to operate in will grow wider and deeper. And this, in turn, risks further eroding trust in tech companies themselves, as well as in the governments, for whom these global players seem entirely out of reach. We already see pushback against big Silicon Valley players who are accused of negligence to defend democracy. But when global tech giants do take a greater responsibility for safeguarding democratic and public principles, it will have a positive ripple effect. We should aspire to see democracy going viral. And there's no time to lose. With growing ambitions of authoritarian states to dictate global norms of their own, wishing to maximize control over the internet, bringing governance of technologies within their territory, the threat against the very promise of a global, open internet has never been bigger. So this is the time to build a democratic digital convention involving civil society groups, private companies, and yes, governments. This digital democratic convention would develop a global democratic set of norms that would be ascribed to, no matter where a company is located. We must draw a line in the sand. Governments must be stopped from interfering with people's rights and the core infrastructure of the internet. But tech companies should be stopped when they interfere with core democratic principles. The alternative, an internet ruled by the law of the jungle, is unfolding before our eyes. We see a science fiction version of 1984 with total control of people's every digital move. Leadership is key, not only as a moral or civic duty, but it's in our self-interest to deliver upon the promise of a networked society that empowers individuals and respects and protects fundamental rights online. So instead of promising to press the pause button on globalization and digitization, or dreaming of a return to a romanticized past, it is our role to redesign governance in a hyper-connected world and to base it on the very democratic values that have brought people the highest quality of life, instead of us adopting norms that others set, whether for maximal power or profit. But this global ambition starts with credibility at home. Clearly, retreating behind borders or walls is not an option when the world gets more connected every day and when so much is at stake. Thank you. Thank you.